The readings from the book of Daniel and the Gospel of Mark can seem rather distant and unfamiliar, unreal. They're called apocalyptic readings, and they come at this time of the year, at the end of the liturgical year. And they say things just like, what? You know, stuff like a time of unsurpassed distress. Or even more, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will shine no more, and the stars shall fall from the sky, and the powers of heaven be shaken. These words are so unfamiliar, they can seem kind of unreal, and they go, oh yeah, okay. That is, they can seem unreal unless we would have been one of the ones who lived through Hurricane Sandy and had our house blown away. Or they could seem unreal unless we are one of the ones living in the Middle East with the rockets coming out of the sky, and as we look out our window, we see the tanks rolling by and the soldiers marching toward the boundaries. Or they'd seem unreal except if our lives were kind of falling apart right now. With a sickness, with a death looming, or a death that's happened. With strife, especially with strife and separation with those that we care for and love the most, and those who care for us and love the most, and yet it's just fallen apart. Or if we remember those things that have happened in our lives and know that, no, this isn't somebody's just fantastic writing. This is very real to us. And we feel it. Those are the kind of things we don't like to think about because they're unpleasant. And even though we don't like to think about illness and death and strife and separation and our world's falling apart, sooner or later, no matter what we do, it'll happen. And as the gospel said, of the time, of the day and hour, we do not know. But we know one day things like that will happen, and probably more than once. So, are these apocalyptic writings given to us to scare the daylights out of us? Is that what they're supposed to do? No, they're not. They are intended to give us hope and to help us to realize what is lasting in our lives. To give us hope in the God who is above it all, in it all, and can bring us through it all. And it does it in at least these three ways. Because it would suggest to us that we do not invest in those things which will pass away. They're going to crash. Don't invest in the stock market that's going to crash. At least everything. All the things that we buy, they're pretty much made for planned obsolescence. This will fall apart in 3 years and we'll have to buy a new one. That's how it's fixed. That's how it's all set up. So don't place our trust too much in stuff. And rather, we are called to place our trust in those things that last. The things of God. We believe that God is love, and whoever lives in love lives in God, and God lives in them. We are called to place our trust in love and to learn how to love and to grow in that love as we live this life. That will last because that is in God. That is, as Scripture says, God. We're to invest in other people, in our love of them, and invest in our love for God. We are called to invest in things such as truth and justice, and to work for justice and fairness in our own lives, and for forgiveness and peace and the other things of God. Invest in them, because these things do not come to an end. These things are of God. The second thing we're called to invest in is in Jesus Christ, to center our lives upon Him. Because when we center our lives upon Him, we find out that He is the one who lasts. He is the one who can bring us through whatever kinds of unsurpassed distress and stars falling from the sky that we might experience. As we heard in that reading, it says, "And then the Son of Man will come in the clouds, in power and in glory." He is the one who can break through it all, and believing in Him is that same faith which can help us to get through it all. Maybe you've said, as I have a number of times, after a particularly trying time, maybe you've said, "I don't know how I would have gotten through that without my faith." Quite frankly, I don't know. And quite frankly, I don't want to find out. In other words, I don't want to lose my faith and lose my way. It is in Jesus Christ that we believe. He's experienced it all and come through it to life. That's what He says to us. Hang tight. Stay in there. The gospel said, "All these things will pass away, but my words will not pass away." And the third thing is this. The third thing is that we learn more and more to live according to the teachings of Christ. And that's especially important when the world is falling apart and we lose our bearings. It's like, well, now what do I do? And sometimes we panic and we reach out for other things and say, well, let's try this. Maybe that'll work instead. And it's something other than what Christ would have us do. I got another idea other than what Christ would have me do. Let me try that. And what happens when we do that? Well, I'll tell you. Sometimes, every once in a while, and it seems right, someone will come into the confessional and confess all their stuff, and I say, "Oh yeah, where did that get you?" And they say, "It got me nowhere." And I'd say, "I don't think that's true." Then they think and they go, "Well, you're right. It got me to a bad place." Following the teachings of Jesus Christ will never get us to a bad place. A place that we have to say, boy, was this ever a mistake. Following the teachings of Jesus Christ bring us through the trial to the fullness of life, even though difficult. We need to hang on in the midst of the chaos and the world falling apart. We need to hang on to His words and His teaching, believing that that's the only thing that's guiding us and will bring us to life. Today we are very fortunate to have 9 people, and there will be a 10th, I just can't be here today, who say, "I've realized this is where I want to be. In this church, with this Jesus Christ, following His way. We want to live out that faith." And it is these people who will be looking to us to say, what does that look like when you live out your faith? And maybe have been for your whole life. Show us what that looks like. They will be looking to us as they continue to grow in their faith. And we also learn from them, with them having new eyes. And so we continue this liturgy, believing that Jesus Christ will come in glory, and that He is here now in His strength and in His glory to be with us. And we hang tight with him.